Hello, and welcome to another episode of Quick and Nerdy, an MSP-friendly how-to channel dedicated to Veeam-powered BaaS and TRaaS offerings. As always, I'm your host, Brandon McCoy, Systems Engineer Advisor supporting our Veeam cloud and service providers. And today, we got another video. This one is on Veeam Data Cloud. So Veeam is finally getting into the hosted offerings, SaaS platforms. Forever, Veeam has been a software-only company. We sell you the software, you install it, you run it, you build it. But now we're splitting up and offering two types of services. So before we get into today's demo, I want to talk about the differences of Veeam Data Cloud and Veeam Data Platform. So Veeam Data Cloud is Veeam's hosted solutions. We start with Veeam Backup for 365, Veeam Backup for Azure, and also Veeam's cloud storage. So if you want to back up to Veeam. Now, all of these are hosted in Microsoft's cloud. They are a fully Veeam product. So if you have problems with support, you open up a ticket. You don't have to run anything. You simply sign up, you start consuming, or you add Veeam storage to backup and replication, and you start backing up to the cloud. All of our on-prem products are still available, and these products are the same. So for instance, Veeam Backup for 365 that we all know and love on-prem is the same product behind the clouds in Microsoft. It's just hosted by Veeam. There are some small differences and discrepancies. We'll get through those in today's video. But again, just to kind of give you an idea of where Veeam is at right now as a company, both still offering our core services of software you install and also SaaS hosted solutions like this one. So Veeam Data Cloud for 365 has been around for about a year and a half, but just December of 2024, we started offering it to our service providers. So this means having it on the rental program and also having a multi-tenant view so that you can manage multiple customers, log in and out of those customers as well as yourself to make it easier. So with all that in mind, let's jump right in, and we're going to actually start by how you sign up and register. So let's get to it. All right, so I have logged into the Pro Partner portal. I clicked on Manage My Business, and now I am in Pulse. If you are not familiar with the Pro Partner portal, you don't know how to log into Pulse, then you should learn that first. That's kind of the first step of becoming a service provider and being able to, get your own licenses and register for products. Now, I'm in Pulse. And on the right-hand side, I see Veeam Data Cloud. Now, for me, it says log into Veeam Data Cloud because I've already registered. For you, you should see this, register for Veeam Data Cloud. Once you register for Veeam Data Cloud, you're going to get an agreement to fill out, and you'll need to put in your information. For the email, you do need to use a Microsoft 365 email. If you do not have a 365 account, you need to open up a ticket with support, and I believe they can help you out with getting access. Now, a side note here too. This account is just giving you the service provider ability in Veeam Data Cloud to add and onboard customers. You will add those customers with their Microsoft 365 tenant credentials, right? They'll need to be a global admin. You'll add that customer. Those are the permissions. Your admin account is not tied to their 365 tenant account, right? Like your account is not part of their intra ID, but your account has the admin access of the Veeam Data Cloud, and therefore any customer that's been added into Veeam Data Cloud with their credentials, you inherit the ability to create jobs, do restores, and things like that. Okay, hope that all makes sense. Now, once you have registered for Veeam Data Cloud, we will create a special login for you. From then on out, you can log in there. Now, the next thing you need to do is create a customer. So if we click back in Pulse and I go to customers, here's where you would create a new customer. It's just going to ask you to fill out the name of the customer, the country in which they live. Everything else is optional, but you may want to fill that in if you have it. I'm just going to click on a customer I've already created. Once you have created your customer, you'll register them for Veeam Data Cloud. So I'm going to just pick on one here. Okay. I'm going to click register your customer for Veeam Data Cloud. Okay, and you'll need to fill out the information for them here. You've got two options. You can allow the customer to do this. They'll be sent all the information to sign up, or the partner managed. So partner will be set an administrator in Veeam Data Cloud and have the ability to create, users and backups and their information here. So who is going to be the initial administrator? You or the partner. Typically this is what you'll click. Okay, submit that. Once you've got that set, we're ready to go into the Veeam Data Cloud and continue along. So the last thing I want to show you before we get into the actual interface is the onboarding screen. When you first onboard a customer, after you've registered them in VDC, they get an email to approve, and then you either invite the customer to do their own onboarding, or for most service providers, you do it for them. Click that. Make sure you understand the legal details. Connect tenant to Flex. So what is Flex? So Veeam Data Cloud comes in three flavors: Flex, Express, and Premium. Now at this time, Flex is the only offering available on the rental program on the multi-tenanted view, but Express and Premium are coming. Flex means you get flexibility of granular restores, picking specific types of objects to back up in jobs. Express is more of a bulk backup and restore. It's a little more rigid in terms of what you can back up and what you can restore, I believe, as well. But it uses Microsoft's backup storage, so this removes any kind of throttling limitations that Microsoft may put on you. So it's kind of faster for big amounts of data. And then the Premium is both of those together, the granularity and the Microsoft backup storage. Okay, so when you connect the tenant, you're going to need to get an MFA code. You'll select the region where you want your data to be stored, and you'll select the retention period here. I believe it is 7 years is the default. You could do 1 year. You can also have the data kept forever. If you open up a support ticket with Veeam, they can increase the amount of retention. This is one of those differences between Veeam Backup for 365 on-prem, where you set the retention on the repository rather. When you add a repository, you say keep the data for this amount of time. Here it is when you onboard that customer for the first time. So you won't be able to change the retention in the basic job scheduling. So make sure you pick this here and what services you would like to back up. We do Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. Once you're finished, it will ask you if you would like to automatically start the backup or do a manual. Keep in mind that if you do automatic, it's going to back up everybody in the organization. So make sure that's what you want. You will be billed automatically. So a difference between most of the other products, like let's say Veeam Data Platform and Veeam Data Cloud, when you ask for these services and you start consuming, it immediately is going to bill you. You don't even have to report your usage, right? So it's not like where you can cut a key and just report what you use and raise and lower those quantities. So keep that in mind when you're kicking off this job, okay? And then you can even send an email to let the customer know what's going on. Okay, so now that we've got a customer added in, we've created a service provider account. Let's log into Veeam Data Cloud. So I'm going to sign in here. Okay, now I am signed in as a service provider, and I know that because if I look in the top left corner, I can see a Customers tab. Now we're going to show you the customer view in a moment. At the bottom, I've got notifications. This is for activity in the console. I've got how to open up a ticket and some KB articles and whatnot. But let's start from the top here. I've got this Customer tab. This allows me to filter and select customers. I've only got one added in here, but you would see a whole list that you could choose from. We've got Flex backups. These are all of the backup jobs. I need to select a customer. You can see I've got 3 different jobs here. I can create a new backup job here. We'll come back to these settings in a moment. The Settings tab. So you've got the display name. You've got roles. So we have two separate roles here. We've got Veeam Cloud Service Provider Engineering. We made this name up. You can make your names up. And this is engineers who have the ability to log in and do demos. So there's some things they can do. There's some things that they can't do. Then we've got an administrator for the people on our team who actually run this, who don't want us to break things. You know, they've got a higher level of creating other users and giving them permissions. There's a lot of permissions and roles that you can take advantage of here for good RBAC. These are my users, so I can invite users as well. I can just add them with their email. They can log in with a Microsoft account. And you've got the system notifications for, you know, success failures and things like that. Let's go back up to customers for a moment, and I'm going to click the actions button and the edit. And you get a whole lot of information right here and options. So first of all, the storage regions. Where is this data stored? Now, we didn't talk about this as much in the beginning, but I did mention that Veeam Data Cloud is hosted in Microsoft. Well, the first thought that might come to your mind is I'm backing up 365, which is Microsoft, into Azure Blob Storage, which is Microsoft. So what gives, right? Well, there's a few things. First of all, the production environment in which the customer's data is, the production data rather, that is isolated and air-gapped from the data center, the availability zone, where the actual backups are kept. Now, we are using LRS, locally redundant storage. What that means is there's 3 copies of your data on 3 separate disks within one Azure availability zone or data center. Okay. The backups are immutable, rather the services. So there's no way to access the data. There's no way to change settings on the bucket and everything. That's all managed on the back end by Veeam, and there's no direct access from here to that. So it's separated. Again, it's isolated and air-gapped from production. So those are kind of the things from a security perspective that we put into this. Okay, what can the customer do? So do you want to give the customer the ability to create and manage their jobs, or maybe you just want to give them the ability to do some self-service restores, to create policies and things like that? You can see those options here. There's also an IP address range of which users can access Veeam Data Cloud from. There's recipients for notifications. I've got the backup policies that we saw from the Flex Backups tab a moment ago. For billing, I can add and remove licenses right here for my licensed users. I've got the backup users. These are users who have data to be backed up, whether or not they consume a license, right? Maybe they're not in a job, or maybe they have like an external SharePoint where there's no license consumed. And you've got your admin users, right? The users who can control this customer, or the customer users who have specific permissions there. And then you've got your licensed users, who is actually consuming a license. Okay. Let's jump into backup. So Flex Backup, I'm going to create a new backup policy. Which customer? I'm going to select them there. Okay, so we'll call this just test backup. Policy description, call this production, whatever. There's the storage region I chose. You can click next, or you can click up here. Backup policy, you can upload like a CSV file with the users you want to back up. I can select the users here. If the users don't appear here, you can also search live. Maybe this is a new user that just got added or something. You can select what you want to back up from, that user. Okay. And then you've got groups. Maybe your customers, their employees are in security groups or distribution groups. They can be added. So that way they'll be added to the backup as long as they're in a group when they're onboarded into that 365 organization. You've got your SharePoint, OneDrive, and then you've got your Teams here, and then the scheduling. So in the on-prem version, you can back up every 5 minutes, every 6 hours, once a day. Here you have the options of every 4 hours, 8 hours, or daily with the Flex policy. Okay, and like I said, the retention was set when you onboarded the customer. I would simply click create and the job would run. Okay, so I think that is a good overview from the service provider side to get you going. I'm going to go to my profile, view tenants, and I'm going to switch to the customer view. Okay, so now I'm logged in as the tenant. Of course, the tenant has their own login. They, of course, wouldn't have the options to switch to you, but you have this option to switch to them. So I'm in the dashboard as a customer. This is, kind of some stats, everything. We're taking advantage of those 365 APIs so you can get some really good information here. I can, these are my backup policies. So you'll notice, like, if I click Manage Backup, I can add users here because I've been given that permission, but you can see, like, I don't have the ability to edit this job. I can just start it and I can, add and remove users. So those are, the permissions that I've been granted by my service provider. I've got reports. These are the reports you would see in the on-prem 365. You can generate those here for like number of users, number of mailboxes that are protected within an RPO. Okay, I can do a search of my backups and look for like specific emails or, who was CC'd, things like that. This is just taking advantage of the Veeam Explorers if you're familiar with those from the on-prem. Now under the Backups tab, this is where all of my restores are done. Okay, this is the data. So like if I select Outlook, I want to do an Outlook restore. Here's a user, here's their inbox. Okay, I can select this email, I can browse this email. Make sure this is the one I want. And I can just, I can add this to the restore here. Now I can restore this back to this original location, back to the user's mailbox. I also have the ability to only restore certain things, restore to a different user's mailbox. I can also do a local download, PST, or messages. And same options for, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. Okay. On the settings here, so these are the roles for the customer. On the previous screen, we were looking at admins and who can manage the customer. Here, you have roles. This user can only restore to OneDrive. The preview emails, so that's kind of cool. Maybe you turn this off, and so if you're trying to do a restore and you're browsing your Outlook, you can't see the body or the contents of the email before you restore, right? Some cool security features there. You've got your admin users, and you can add those by email. You can also use Entra ID, formerly Azure Active Directory, for authorization and authentication, and you've got your billing here, but again, I'm not managing this. My service provider is, so I don't have a lot of access here. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. I think a big part of the learning curve here is actually the registration. And it's not hard, it's just some people aren't as familiar with, how do I get this customer onboarded? What kind of permissions? It's all Entra ID based for the tenant. And then you just need to register yourself as a service provider through Pulse and register your tenant. Make sure you get the right credentials. But once you've got them registered, logging into the interface, it's pretty easy to kind of navigate, right? It's all hosted SaaS, so shouldn't be too hard. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll make some other videos on some of the other Veeam Data Cloud products maybe. And until next time, keep on Veeaming in the free world.